Well, what a Boxing Day in the Championship, full of goals galore and some really huge results at the top and the bottom. So let's round it up as always. Starting with the first game on Boxing Day, which was Blackburn at home to Sunderland. A big game this because, of course, Blackburn with a win could have got themselves within 3 points of Sunderland. And, of course, they have a game in hand as well. So it was a great opportunity for them to close a really, really big gap on the top four. But I think in the end, it was a better point for Sunderland going to Blackburn, ensuring that the gap to the team who are their closest chasers didn't get any bigger. It stayed exactly the same. And going to Ewood Park, which has been a pretty good place for Blackburn this season, I definitely think it's a good point for Sunderland. But then equally, Blackburn have ensured that they've not got any further away, and they're right there alongside them still. So I think both sides could probably take joy from this point, and I think that was what both sides deserved. It looked like a really, really even game across the board. It looked like a very entertaining game. Blackburn taking the lead. Sunderland, of course, then with a quick-fire double going in front before a late equaliser rescued the point for Blackburn. And then Ainsley pairs with some absolute heroics at the end with some brilliant goalkeeping from a 1v1 breakaway. So this game had a bit of everything. I think you've got two very good teams here who, at this moment in time, you'd have to say both should comfortably be in the playoffs, you'd have to say. And there wasn't much to split them. And I think they'll both take this as a pretty good point. Bristol City 1, Luton 0. There are positives, I guess, from a Luton point of view in the fact that they weren't massively beaten here. But I guess that's where the bar is with Luton on the road at the moment. It's an incredibly low bar because they've still lost. They've still lost 8 away games in a row, which is absolutely mad. But at least they were more competitive here. I mean, it took an absolute stunner from Scott Twine to win the game for Bristol City. They were limited to only 3 shots on target. Only, I think, 3 of them shots were inside the box. So I think Luton were a little bit more resolute defensively. Didn't allow Bristol City to create as much. So I still feel like there are positives creeping through with this Luton side. I still think it's going to be way too late for them to, create any sort of playoff push or anything of the like. But I think the ship is getting steadied slightly, albeit they're still not picking up points on the road. It's still massively, massively letting them down. It's a good win for Bristol City. Of course, they're a team who are up one week, down the next, so I'm not going to really read too much into this victory. Luton are one of the worst travellers in the league at the end of the day, but I think there certainly are positives to take from this game for both sides. Coventry 4, Plymouth 0. Just when you thought Plymouth were maybe turning a corner, they go and drop a vintage Plymouth away performance. In the last 2 games, very good against both Sheffield United and Boro, especially last week I saw firsthand. I thought they were brilliant against us, and it's ironic that of the last 6 games, Plymouth have lost 5. The only one they didn't was against my lot, which I find quite ironic. But it's not that they lost on the road that was the problem here. It's the way they lost. 2 games ago, a very competitive, you could say proud, defeat, although it was against Sheffield United. They come out of that, I think, holding their heads high with a much better, more competitive performance. But this reverted right back to where Plymouth were before, and it's not what they need. They've now lost their last 4 away games at an aggregate score of 16-1, and they've lost 10 of their 12 away games this season at an aggregate score of 33-3. So, yeah, just when you thought they were turning a corner, they've reverted right back to type, and that's a real concern. Only 1 shot on target in this whole game. But Coventry deserve credit. Of course, it's a big win for them, a big win for Lampard. They're still very up and down under him. They're still yet to really level out, so I'm not going to get too sort of up or down on Coventry at the moment. I'm still sort of waiting to see where they sort of level out under Lampard, but it's a poor Plymouth side, of course it is, but you still have to beat them, and Coventry created more than enough to do that, created loads of shots on target, loads of big chances, put them away professionally, something we couldn't do last week, so they'll certainly take it. It's a big confidence booster for them. Plymouth, though, have reverted right back to where they were, and now they've got to pick themselves back up all over again. Boro 3, Sheffield Wednesday 3. This was one of the biggest implosions you'll ever see from a football club this season. I've done, once again, another full-on half-an-hour rant about this game on my YouTube channel, so check that out if you want to see me go in depth on this one. But this was Michael Carrick's Boro in a 90-minute nutshell. First half, absolutely brilliant. Great football, outstanding play, 3 great goals, 3-0 up at half-time. As I said in my Project Boro review, the first half was why Middlesbrough under Carrick could in asterisks, could be a promotion contender. The second half was why we won't be. A 15-minute capitulation, albeit Sheffield Wednesday deserve equal credit. Danny Roll made some inspired tactical changes at half-time, which worked an absolute treat, but they still had to get the goals. They showed great character and resilience, which Sheffield Wednesday seem to do away from home. It's only 1 defeat in 8 now for Wednesday. They don't know when they're beaten, and it was an unbelievable comeback. You won't see many better this season, but they were helped by Boro absolutely falling to pieces, and it's a characteristic of this side that it's been there for a while, and it's one that we simply have to try and get rid of, because if we keep throwing away points and games and conceding goals like we are, we can't expect to score 3 goals in a game and not come out of it with 3 points in back-to-back games. How many goals do we have to score to win a game of football? It's just not good enough from a Boro point of view, and we're sleepwalking out of the playoffs, to be honest, and sleepwalking into a mid-table scrap at this rate. The only positive for us is that, a bit like I was saying with Blackburn and Sunderland, the gap from Sheffield Wednesday to Boro didn't get any bigger. We didn't lose this game. We held on for half an hour without, Rav Vandenberg, who was sent off. So it could have been worse, crazily enough, and the gap to Sheffield Wednesday didn't get any smaller. But still, on a day where Boro could have took advantage of results going for them, you could say elsewhere, blowing a game from 3 goals up is absolutely inexcusable. 1 win in 5 for Boro, and we've conceded 10 goals in that time. You simply can't expect playoffs with form that poor. Norwich 2, Millwall 1, a first win in 5 for Norwich. No surprise it comes at Carrow Road. That's where a lot of their joy comes from, and on the balance of play, looking at the numbers and the highlights, they did edge this game. I think it's a result they deserved. Millwall, of course, made a fist of it second half, got back into it, couldn't quite get anything from it though, which is a bit of a shame. And that win against Blackburn, unfortunately, is something they've not built upon. It's only 1 win in 8 now, 4 defeats in that time for Millwall. We just have to see who they bring in, where they go from here. Hopefully they can reset and just settle and stabilise. I think that's what they need. Norwich though, it's a very good win. That's what they do at Carrow Road. I'm still not convinced though, home and away, they've got the consistency to be a true playoff contender. It all depends on what they can do and if they can build on this result going forward. Oxford 3, Cardiff 2. What a ginormous win this is for Oxford. This was, and again, I don't want to use a cliche at this stage in the season, but wasn't far off a 6-pointer down the bottom of the Championship. But you had 2 teams here who have absolutely struggled for a long time now, and 3 points in this game. It's priceless for either side, and Oxford are the ones who got it, and I'm delighted for them. They've been through such a terrible run. This is only their 2nd win in 17 games. They've lost Des Buckingham. Gary Rowett's come in, and this is exactly what they needed, to be honest. Back at home at the Kazam with a win, what they were doing at the start of the season, and to pull 3 points away from a team who you're competing with down there in Cardiff and pulling 3 points clear of them. It's ginormous down there. It really, really is. It's such a huge win for Oxford. As for Cardiff, though, this is a damning defeat. It really, really is. 3-0 down, so although the scoreline looks respectable, it took them until the 82nd minute to get back into this game, and it was just too little too late. Oxford looked like they edged it on the numbers and the stats. It's a worrying time for Cardiff City. As I say, Omar Rizza, maybe he's a victim of his own success because he had such a great interim spell where it seemed more than obvious to give him the job, and then since he's took it, it's just gone completely wrong. They're winless in 9. They've conceded 18 goals in that time, and Cardiff have committed to this guy. I don't want to say already they need to think about changing, but they're on a one-way ticket to potential relegation at this point. So do they swallow their pride and look to make another change before things get serious? Or do they hold it out and hope he can turn it around? I don't know. But yeah, a huge win for Oxford. I'm getting really, really worried about Cardiff. Preston 1, Hull 0. Preston do what they do at home. They're pretty good at Deepdale, as we've come to know. It's only 1 defeat in 8 for them as well. So Preston are finding ways to win games and not lose them, which is really impressive. And they've only lost twice at home all season as well, which I didn't realise. So, yeah, they are leaning on Deepdale being, I wouldn't say a fortress, but a good place to go and a good place to win games. And they should be winning against Hull. I know they picked up their first win under Ruben Sellers in the last game, but scoring goals continues to be a ginormous problem for Hull City. You know, they had more chances, 10 shots to Preston's 8. 4 on target to Preston's 2. Although it looked a tight game, you'd expect Hull to have come away with something. But as always, they just let themselves down going forward. And it might be something that needs urgently addressing in the January window to give them a chance. Because that win, unfortunately, is something they've not built upon. It's now only 1 win in 14 for them. 9 defeats in that time. I still think Sellers has the ability to get Hull to safety. They just have to hold their nerve, I think, at this moment in time and try and reinforce in January. But it's another key 3 points for Preston, who are more than away from safety now, and I think will be safe in mid-table. Sheffield United 0, Burnley 2. This is the result of the weekend. What a win at the top of the Championship. I can't put into words how huge this is for Burnley. You know, if Sheffield United had won, the gap to Burnley would have been huge, and then maybe one of the top 2 places without a reach, given Sheffield United's efficiency. For Burnley to not only beat them, but go to Bramall Lane and beat them is incredible. It was the first defeat in 12 for Sheffield United. Completely, first defeat in 12 in the league. It's only the 3rd time they've dropped points in that time, and they're the first team to score at Bramall Lane since August the 17th. Which I believe was 10 home games ago, which was when Sheffield United drew 2-2 against QPR. So their brilliant home record is breached. Their unbeaten run at home is gone. Burnley went there 2-0, perfect away performance, and got a clean sheet. This was a statement win for the Clarets to say we are well and truly in the fight for automatic promotion. And now they're 10 unbeaten, won 7 in that time, conceded only 3. I just can't foresee a world where this Burnley team aren't up there now with just how good they are defensively. And if they can go to Sheffield United and win, they can win absolutely anywhere. So this is a ginormous win for them. I wouldn't say Sheffield United need to be too concerned. They've been beaten by an informed Burnley side, and it's their first defeat at home, as I say. So like they did against Boro and Leeds when they lost back, I think in October time, they'll get over this quickly, put it to the back of their minds, get right back on it, and go and win 9 of the next 11, which they're more than capable of doing. But make no mistake about it, Burnley are going to be right there with them. Swansea 3, QPR 0. Not much to say on this one. Swansea doing Swansea, as I've said all season. They're a very good mid-table, maybe top 10 side. They'll beat the teams they should beat, and they did that here. It's a bit of a disappointing one for QPR, though, because they were completely outplayed. It was a bit like the QPR from before this really good turnaround. You know, they let up a lot of chances, conceded 3 goals. They've done really well defensively of late. So this will be not a setback, but a real disappointing return to bad habits for QPR, you could say. And like they were doing on the road previously, they didn't create anything. They didn't have a single shot on target in this game. They were completely the second best side. And I do worry that still QPR will rely on their home form. But I do think I've seen enough to think that they're going to be all right. You know, at the end of the day, it is their first defeat in 8, so they just need to bounce back from this and ensure they don't return back to the form they had previously. Swansea, good win for them. Nothing more to say. Watford 2, Pompey 1. This was a crazy end to the game. I mean, listen, I think looking at the numbers, Watford deserved something, if not the win here. I mean, it would have been a right old smash and grab for Pompey had they held on and won this game. They scored from their only 1 shot on target. They were far the second best side in terms of possession and the chances Watford created. 13 shots, 6 on target for Watford. You know, an XG of 1.5. They more than deserved something, but it's an absolute sickener from Pompey that it comes so late in the game, and maybe a tad controversial as well. You know, the penalty that Kiembe put away was Potter's challenge even in the box. It looked incredibly tight. And then to compound the misery, really, and the miserable day down at the Vic, Watford win it in the 95th minute. It's a sucker blow for Pompey. I mean, on the balance of the game, I think Watford deserved something. It's harsh how Pompey lost it. Of course, there was then the really sort of unsavoury red card at the end from Barr. I don't know what he was doing. He was acting like a bit of a child, to be honest with you. But Watford do what they do. And I think when you're a team who are so good at home, you just have the mentality and the confidence that no matter what happens, you'll find a way. And that's what Watford seem to do at the Vic. It's their 9th home win in 11, and it fires them in to the top 6 once again. So it's a great win for them. A sickener for Pompey, but they've been in good form recently for Pompey, so they need to just ensure they don't let this one get to them too much. Derby 2, West Brom 1. The first game without Carlos Corberán ends in a defeat. And of course, I've not done a video yet on the Corberán news because, well, it dropped late on Christmas Eve. I mean, what a time to announce that your manager was leaving. Merry Christmas, baggies. Yeah, a huge shock that Carlos Corberán has left, and my big worry for West Brom this season was if they lost Carlos Corberán, because he's the glue that holds them together, in my opinion, and is one of the best managers in the league, undoubtedly. But he's left for his boyhood club in Valencia, release clause activated, and it makes you wonder what happens to West Brom from here, because I just believe he was, as I say, the key in that side, and it's not been the best start for them, losing away to Derby. You know, Derby were in poor form, but they've backed it up. They've come back, 2 home wins in a row. Really good turnaround from them. Just when you maybe started to get a little bit worried that they were sliding a bit close to the bottom end of the table, they've pulled themselves away from it completely. So a great result for them. West Brom, though, I'm going to be very intrigued to see who they get in and where they go from here. I still think there's great options out there that they might go for. Some really good championship managers. I mean, could Mark Robins go in there and do a job? Will they tempt Steve Cooper back into the championship? I don't know. So I still think there's hope for West Brom and playoffs if they can get the next managerial appointment right. But it's certainly a big one, and it could determine where they end up. But they need to be careful they don't fall too far behind the playoff pack, because them and Boro are now chasing Watford and Blackburn. Finally, Stoke 0, Leeds 2. No surprise with this result here. Leeds, the far better side, created miles more opportunities and got exactly what they deserved from this game. A Pirro brace got them the win. I think for Leeds, it's just good to win solidly on the road, because they have been a little bit shaky on the road recently, but they've got back into the swing and got back in gear of Leeds. 4 wins in 5 since they lost to Blackburn, and with results going, you know, against their opposition, their rivals, they've actually found their way back to the top of the league, which I find crazy, but Leeds back to the top with a solid win. A game they should be winning, let's not forget. And Stoke's torrid form continues. I mean, yeah, they shouldn't, you know, be too unhappy with, you know, a result losing to Leeds, because they'll be one of many teams who lose to Leeds this season, so it's not a game that should define their season. But I think just as a whole, you know, it's 5 defeats in 6 for Stoke, and in that time they've conceded 12 goals. I think they've conceded twice in every one of their last 6, and they're winless in 9. So, although they weren't expecting much from this, the slide continues, and they need to turn things around very, very soon. And that leads me on to the Championship League table, which is certainly an interesting read. The top is fascinating. Sheffield United off the top, with Leeds jumping them via goal difference. Leeds up to the top. Burnley were second briefly until Leeds then jumped the pair of them. So it's very tight between the top 3, and I'm very intrigued to see how they battle one another as the season gets into the second half. You can't forget Sunderland, who are hanging on in there, 3 points behind them. Still not 100% convinced they'll be there at the end, but Sunderland are certainly doing such a great job to keep well in 4th, and there's no doubt for me they'll be in the playoffs. They're 8 points in there now. It would be an absolutely mental fall off for Sunderland to not be in the top 6, and they're just way too efficient and consistent, and they don't lose games. So I've got no worries that they won't be in there, and I could say the same for Blackburn. You know, the worry for the chasing pack is that it looked like 5th and 6th was up for grabs, and maybe the top 4 had gone, but with Blackburn, unless they have a massive fall off, you could say 5th could be gone as well. I mean, I worry for Boro and West Brom, to be honest with you, at this point, because Blackburn and Watford have games in hand. Win them, and then a huge gap opens up of at least 4 points to the chasing pack. So Boro and West Brom could be on for a very disappointing and underachieving season if they don't sort their ideas out. Sheffield Wednesday might be the team to capitalise. Who knows? We then look through a bunch of mid-table sides who live in mid-table, let's be honest. But let's go out towards the bottom of the league, where it is still so goddamn tight. I still think Portsmouth will be fine with the games in hand they've got, and I can't you know, I can't explain how much of a priceless win it was for Oxford because it's kept them clear of the bottom 3. But Stoke are now slipping into what might be a bottom 6 scramble, you could say, at this moment in time. They're certainly sliding down there. You know, the 2 teams below them have got games in hand, so Stoke are probably teetering above the bottom 3 at this point. It all depends on what Hull can do and if they can drag themselves out of it, because I really worry for Cardiff. I can't see where they're going to get out of this at the moment. And Plymouth have just reverted back to being Plymouth after what looked like a nice mini turnaround. So I'm still concerned for Hull. I'm still concerned for Cardiff and Stoke. Oxford, will see how they build on it. Plymouth as well, a really bad defeat. So the bottom of the league is just as fascinating as the top. There's my roundup of the Championship this week, guys. If you've enjoyed the video, do hit a like on it as always and subscribe for much more Championship content here on the channel. Comment below with your thoughts on your team as always. And as I say, I'll keep trying my best to bring you guys the roundup content with games coming thick and fast between now and New Year. There's another round of games in 2 days' time. There's another round of games after that on New Year's. So again, probably no prediction videos, but I'll keep trying to round them up best I can. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, if you enjoy the content, please do subscribe. It really, really helps the channel out. But until next time, do take care. And I'll see you all in the next one.